All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. As always, my name is Griffin Rayom with Caterpillar Inc. And today I've got a really exciting guest with me. His name's Brandon Brzowski. Just to kind of divulge some personal details, Brandon and I went to college together and were roommates at one time. And it's been really great to see his career evolve and the things that have happened over the past several years for him. And Brandon is the founder of and owner of Billy Bob's Repair and Tire based down in Texas. Brandon, I don't want to steal any more thunder from you. So first of all, just want to thank you, but I'd like to, let you do your own intro and tell your story a bit. So I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, thank you for having us, on this interview with you. And my name is Brandon Brzowski. I'm 34 years old, and as Griff said, we went to college together. We're roommates for a short period of time there in college, and since college, went to work originally right out of school for Caterpillar Inc. out of Houston in the oil and gas industry, and decided to leave there about 2 years after that to pursue my own business with my wife, and we started this business back in, 2010, and just me and a service truck, basically. And now we're, I think, at 33 employees in 2 different locations in the state of Texas. So always trying to grow and to improve on what we do and what we offer for our customers.
That's awesome. And then, so it's, I know you and I were talking, you were working on a Peterbilt before we were getting ready to have this conversation. Are you working mainly on highway trucks, or what all kind of repairs are you doing?
We do a little bit of both on highway trucks, medium and heavy duty diesel trucks, and then as well as off highway equipment and small construction equipment.
Okay. Wow. Good. Before we get into, kind of how you started your journey on your own business, I do want to kind of start beforehand, because you and I met in, like I had said earlier, in college, but we were both going through the Think Bigger program. So, how'd you get started with as a graduate of the Think Bigger program, but how'd you get started with Think Big? And, tell me a bit about that experience for you.
Yeah. So in high school, I was working for John Deere, actually. An ag dealership just south of San Antonio in Pleasanton, Texas. And I was in the ag program in high school, and a recruiter from Holt Cat here in San Antonio actually came and kind of talked to everybody about the option of Think Big and explained the program to us and how it worked. And it was something that I thought I would enjoy. So I decided to, fill out for the application and interview for it, and ended up getting accepted into the program and did that. Spent 2 years up at TSTC Technical College there in Waco, and graduated top of my class there with a mutual friend of ours, Matt Barktel. And the two of us decided we're going to go up to Pitt State there in Kansas and check out the Think Bigger program, and made the choice to go ahead and go through with that. So. And
how was going from, with your program starting at the John Deere and then working with Holt, how was that transition as well, in terms of starting to work more at the dealership and then getting that hands-on experience, and then taking that and then, going even further with your bachelor's degree?
Yeah, so I think it gave me an advantage starting young. I started at John Deere in Pleasanton when I was 16 years old, and it was a different customer, a little bit different application, different equipment. Going from ag to the construction side, I remember, you always have the naysayers, people saying, oh, you're not going to make it, over at Holt, that's where all the good mechanics are, and yada yada. Well, I wanted to be one of those good mechanics, so I wanted to be a part of that. And I think that had a big driving force in me wanting to go over there and work with Holt on all that, and just seeing the opportunities that it could present, and how big Holt is. Here in San Antonio, they have every different shop basically that you can have, from, an engine shop to hydraulics, the revenue side. So there was a lot of different opportunities for different things. And that's kind of what drove me to do the Think Big program. And then when I was in that program, one of the things that I think technicians struggle, I know I did, was, I always was worried, what am I going to do 20 years from now? Am I going to still be mechanicking, or, what am I going to be able to do? And so when the Think Bigger program was talked about, at the end of the program, it was something that I was really interested in, because I saw it as something where I could use my technical skills that I had, but also maybe open up opportunities later down the road for a management type role. So that's what kind of led me to go that direction.
That's great. And then, I think I think it's a testament to, the quality of the program and the training that you get, but then also you're really similar to me in the sense that, you face some negative feedback, you face kind of some naysayers, and then you just took that as an extra challenge, like kind of the prove them wrong mentality. And, I find that is a great motivator anytime somebody says, well, you're not going to be any good at it, or that's not going to be successful. It's like, well, I'll show you how I'm going to be good at it, or how we can be successful at that. So that's, or sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think no matter what path you choose in life, you're going to have people that are going to, say, well, you're doing the wrong thing, or you should have done this or should have done that. But I just think that in life, you have to have a little grit, and you have to dig deep sometimes and just work through that. And like you said, use it as motivation to really prove to others that you can do what you think you can do,
Yeah. So and on that note, like doing what you think you can do and kind of pushing after things. So deciding to start your own business, that's a huge leap, especially like when, I'm assuming that was still in your mid-20s. So you're still probably carrying some debt from college as well as everything else going on, the other chapters of life. Like, how did you come to that decision that you wanted to start that business? And then what was your decision what was kind of a key moment that was like, I think it's time to get into this space?
Yeah, so it was kind of a unique way. I'd moved back. I'd resigned from Caterpillar and moved back home with the intention of starting something, and as a mechanic or something in the trucking. At that point in time, that was in, I guess 2009, and the oil field down here in South Texas was kind of ramping up pretty good, and there were some opportunities there in trucking. And so I actually started off with buying a semi-truck, and I was hauling frac sand to oil wells in South Texas. And with that there, as we started to grow that, and I realized, in this market, there was a lot of growth at that point. And basically there wasn't enough good mechanics around to take care of the equipment. And that's kind of how I ended up in the truck repair deal. Was I ended up buying a service truck, putting all my tools that I had in storage, putting them, in my service truck and working on my own stuff. And then people that knew me and knew my background from when I was younger, and, that I'd worked on stuff before, they started using me for their repairs. And then it's grown from there. There's just a lot of opportunity at that time. I think timing was, got a little lucky on timing, I think, and, and just pushing through the obstacles. I mean, it wasn't always easy. When I first started in the repair business, there was times I questioned, if I really wanted to do that at a big scale, with a big shop and having several technicians, just from challenges with employees and, the long hours. I mean, I remember when we started, I was working 7 days a week, and I would work from 6 a.m. till midnight every day. And that kind of takes a toll on you after a while, And so just mentally being able to be tough enough to work through that, and my wife helped me a lot with that. There was times that it wasn't always great, it wasn't always good. And, now we've grown to where I have, manpower in place, managers in place that help with a lot of obstacles like that. And, it's a lot less stressful now, but early on there was definitely some stress and some obstacles to overcome.
And now you're at 33 employees. So how has that gone? I guess, you went from somebody that was essentially, just doing something on their own, and then it just keeps growing and evolving. And like you talked about, like bringing on managers and then bringing on other skill sets as well. So how's that been to kind of go from somebody that's, doing all of the work to like really being in the driver's seat now, but still pretty close to the work as well?
Well, it's definitely a challenge. The one of the biggest challenges I had early on was just relinquishing responsibility. When you start your own business and it's basically you doing everything, you're going to do it, the best you can. It's your business and you're going to take care of it like nobody else will. And so just, trying to find the right people and being able to relinquish responsibility to those people and delegate tasks to them, that's kind of a challenging thing. For me, it was more challenging than some people probably, but I just learned over time that as it grew, the opportunities, continue to grow. We were gaining more customers, having more and more work that like I couldn't do everything by myself. There just wasn't enough hours in the day. And I was kind of forced into growing. And we had to work through it. It took, probably, it seems like a few years before we got the right people in the right places and really got it to where it's at now, where it kind of, I don't have to be here every single day. I'm still very involved. I still a mechanic. I still run a service truck. All my tools are in my service truck. If we get busy, I go to the field and work just like a mechanic, that works for me. But, so that's, it's had challenges, but it's been rewarding too.
How many years ago did you start this?
It's been since 2010, so 10 years ago.
10 years. Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. And then, I've talked about this in other conversations, but as a son of an entrepreneur as well, like I've seen the scenarios that you talked about, like the working 7 days a week. There was at one point in time, our dad was working, I believe, 3 years straight, because that's what it took to make sure that the business was going to survive. But to hear to this point now where you're able to kind of trust people and, if you don't need to be there that day, you don't have to be. That's a huge accomplishment. I think it takes people a long, long time to get to that point, like 15, 20 years. So the fact that you've been able to achieve that within 10 years is a huge accomplishment and a testament to like what you're doing and the way that you're managing and leading.
Well, yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, it's a sense of relief, as an owner. Yeah. The amount of stress that takes off of you is a lot. And it's just a matter of finding the right people, and that, that's easier said than done. But I remember going through working with Kat in the Think Bigger program. I just remember, people was a big, something that they really focused on. Caterpillar was, I felt like when I worked with them. And having the right person in the right place, was important. And I see that with my own business. And I've brought a lot of things that I learned from Cat to my own business with structure and organization and things like that I'm thankful for the opportunities I had and what I learned. But it's people make all the difference in the world. If you have the wrong person in the wrong role, it's not beneficial to them or the company. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a huge thing that, it takes a very strong person, and they have to have their ego in check to, like you said, relinquish certain responsibilities over to other individuals. When you own your own business, you want to do everything yourself, or sometimes you have no choice and you have to do everything yourself. But then you've gotten in the position of like, hey, I can't handle this anymore. I need somebody to take that on. But some people never come to that realization, and they never want to pass something on, and that like it really kind of cuts their mission or their project short sometimes because they can't admit where they have shortcomings or where they have flaws.
Yeah, no, for sure. And what I've kind of learned too is, I've always, whatever I do in the business, whatever my main role is in the business, right? We all, as a business owner, that there's, so many tasks, and you do all kinds of tasks. You'll do whatever it takes. If there's trash on the ground, you pick it up. You know what I mean? You'll do whatever it takes to make the business go. But what I've always tried to do is my main role in the business at that point is always try to replace myself with someone to do those tasks, right? So,
Yeah.
Whether it be mechanicking or whether it be managing the shop, running the shop, communicating with customers on estimates and invoicing, the parts department, everything. I've always tried to teach someone what I've done and how I've done it, and then replace myself with them. So like I said, we're not perfect. We're still growing and still learning every day. Businesses are always evolving. It's always changing. You have challenges like what's going on now in today's times with the COVID stuff and all that. So you just got to learn to adapt and, do the best you can through those situations.
Yeah. And in terms of the skill set too, I think that's one that would make me as an employee or somebody working with you much more confident in you as a leader, because you've done every job. So you'd be able to replace an individual should something happen. But then also I would know, or any of your employees know, like when you tell them how to go about something or how something needs to be approached, like they're going to have a lot of confidence in how you're addressing that because they know that you've already done that yourself.
Yeah, I think that a lot of our technicians have respect for me, and I respect them as well as employees. But I think they respect the fact that if they're on something that's really challenging, whether it's one of my field techs out in the field diagnosing something, or here at the shop, or whatever the case may be, I get involved with it and help them troubleshoot and figure out what's going on. I support them in their role basically. So kind of like from the dealer, you have your TC at the dealer who supports the techs. I kind of play that role here, so if there's an issue with something that they can't figure out, or they're having an issue with whatever it may be, finding specs for something or information on it, schematic, whatever it may be, I get that for them and help them with troubleshooting it. And so I think that them seeing me not only do that on a daily basis, but like if things get busy and I go to the field and work in the field, and they see me working side by side with them still as an owner 10 years in, still wearing a mechanic's uniform to work every day. And I think that they appreciate that,
Yeah.
So
of the 33 employees, how many are mechanics then?
I would say, let's see here, I got to think about this. We've got, I guess, three guys out in West Texas that are mobile. And then we've got the rest of the mechanics here at the shop. And then we've got 6 mobile trucks here in San Antonio. And then the tire side, we've got tire techs that are mobile in here at the shop. I think we've got out of the 33 with tire techs and mechanics, we're probably somewhere around, that should be 23 or 24 techs.
Oh, wow.
And the rest are either office personnel or parts, like the parts department, things like that.
So it's a huge challenge for Caterpillar and for its dealers to find skilled technicians. I mean, how is that for you as a small business owner then?
We have the same challenges. The way I've kind of structured the business is like the field techs obviously are more experienced technicians that they have to be somebody that you can trust in the field by themselves to not get hurt, to do the job safely, but also have the knowledge to troubleshoot things. But one of the things where I think that we excel at is I understand the electronic side of things really well, and that's usually what technicians struggle with is electrical and things like that, and computer diagnostics. And because of my strengths in that, I feel like I don't have to hire all my techs don't have to be the greatest techs, because I'm able to help them with troubleshooting. And then the shop foreman that works for me is really good as well. So, it's like anything. We have high-level techs, and then we've got, entry-level techs that we're training, doing on-the-job training with, and teaching them the right ways to do things. One of the things I've done, and I kind of took this from, when I was interviewed at Holt, is I created basically tests, so whenever a technician comes in to apply for a position, I've got about 100 question test that I go over with them, and I actually test them in the interview because, it's so easy for a tech to say, oh, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I know how to do that, But when you start asking them very detailed questions that are real world issues, you find out real quick, if they know what they say they know or if they don't, so.
That's awesome, and that's much more involved than I would have assumed. So I mean, that's great that you're taking something that you learned from another organization and applying that into your own. So that's really good. So we talked about skill sets a bit, and I would venture to say, without putting any words in your mouth, but your success is solely due to the fact that you decided to pursue a career in the skilled trades. And is that correct in some manner?
Oh, I would agree with that. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole point of these discussions is really I'm trying to shed light, myself along with Caterpillar and the rest of the organization, really trying to shed light on the role of the technician, but the skilled trades in general. It just seems to have a very negative connotation, very dead end for a career. You're not going to make that much money. It can be dangerous, all these things. That may have been the case, several years ago, but it's really changed. And just in some of the things that you were talking about earlier with, computers and using laptops for diagnostics and then testing the electrical, just the technology aspect should show how much things have changed and really leaped forward over the years. But there's a huge gap out there in terms of the work that we have available in, the construction as well as the automotive industry, versus the amount of people that we actually have come looking at us for jobs.
Yeah, there's a lot there from what you just said. I'll try to keep that on my talk here, but yeah, they, the amount of work in this industry, and it's I think it's all skilled trades, honestly. I don't think it's just technicians. I mean, it's plumbers, electricians, everything. But I mean, we're talking about technicians here. But yeah, I think, and I mean, my opinion is that it starts from kind of high school, and some of those aspects, going back to the naysayers. I remember when I was graduating from high school, my high school counselor, she told me, I was top 10% of my class, and she said, look, you're really good at math and science. She really pushed me to go to a 4-year university, go to like Texas A&M or University of Texas and get like an engineering degree. Well, I grew up fairly, poor, honestly. And I didn't have the money for that, for one. For two, I needed to do something where I could make money like now, you know. And I was already mechanicking and already knew the opportunity from working for John Deere and all the work that they had, and then from Holt, talking to them and seeing how busy they were when I went and looked at the facilities. And I thought to myself, like, if I can go through this 2-year tech program and work, the way Think Big set up, you come back home for half the semester and work at the dealership, so you're making money, right? You have income coming in, as to where if I went to a 4-year school, I wasn't going to have that opportunity necessarily. So that was kind of a driving factor for me, was the fact that I could get in the workplace sooner and start making money, because I needed to do that. And I think that, there's just so many opportunities in this field, and I see it still, it's not all glamour, right? Like, I mean, there's good money to be made. There's a lot of work, but you still have to be willing to have, get a little dirty sometimes. It's not always the cleanest environment, but it's also not what people think. Sometimes I think sometimes people think like we're just like covered in grease from head to toe in oil,
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there's jobs where that can happen, but that's not the normal, right? I mean, most days I go home and I'm fairly clean,
Yeah.
But at the same time, you do have to be willing to get a little dirty. But me personally, that doesn't bother me at all. So.
Yeah, and you covered a lot with that. And the one thing I would kind of want to touch on, and we're talking about it with skilled labor, especially in our current environment with the coronavirus, is it's really exposed how reliant we are on skilled labor. And a lot of it was exported overseas for the sake of cost and production. But now hopefully we're seeing a wave of where we want to see about bringing that back. And maybe if we have more people in the skilled trades where we're less reliant on having to import things from overseas as often, and should we have a disruption in the supply chain, such as a global pandemic or possibly economic crisis, et cetera, we should be able to do that internally and still be able to, go through day-to-day pieces and, meet those needs. Like online learning, as well as I see a huge resurgence in even like some of the, I don't want to say crafts, but it's like some of the homemaking and craft skills, or DIY is probably the better way to put that. Like people looking up, how to make bread because they couldn't get bread at the store, or there was such a huge demand on flour, right? And like, had we not faced this scenario, then we probably wouldn't have to ask that question. But then now, after having gone through that, people hopefully are a bit more appreciative and understand that, having somebody actually do these things with their hands, instead of just assuming that everybody's going to go into a job where they're sitting behind a desk, there should be a really big shift in that space.
Yeah, I think I hope there is. I hope you're right, and that there is, because we do need it as a country. We need to get. I feel like as a country, we kind of need to get back and reevaluate the basics. I think, even myself included, we take things for granted. And when things like this happen, you start to realize that, there is there's a void, that needs to be filled in different ways here in our country. And hopefully, our education system, and I think it starts, Griff, my honest opinion is I think it starts at a younger age, middle school, high school, that we start teaching kids some skilled trades in that time frame, and some real life things, that they need to know about, and I mean, I'm not an educator, so I don't know, I'm not an expert on that topic, but that's just my opinion. I feel like when I was younger, I was pushed more into, you need to go to get your bachelor's degree, and you need to, that's the direction you need to go. And I did end up doing that. And I'm not saying that that's the wrong direction. There's no right or, I don't feel like there's one direction for everybody. There's everybody has a skill set. And I think that people need to think about what they really enjoy doing. Like for me, I think with my business, why I've been successful is I don't ever wake up in the morning and dread going to work. Like I really love what I do, and I think that's what makes me good at what I do. And I think that younger kids, I'd say kids, high schoolers, middle school even, I feel like they should be talked to more about, what's their strengths, what are they good at, what do they like to do, and look at some of that stuff instead of just one size fits all. You need to go get a bachelor's degree, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I think that was the equation for a long time. And it's just like any position of authority or experience, and I don't mean authority in a negative aspect. I mean it like anybody that's in a position of authority where they have the ability to make decisions but influence others as well. They're likely going to give the advice that they followed, or they're going to give the advice that got them to where they were. So yeah, high school teachers as well as grade school teachers, they all went into 4-year degrees and got a education. So, and that's what got them their full-time job. So they're likely going to just replicate that formula and say to their audience, like, yeah, you need to be getting a bachelor's. But now we've seen, especially with some of the info as well as the unfortunate unemployment numbers, that, education is not a guarantee for success. It's really about, like you said, I think it's about grit. It's about how you apply yourself. You can do great things with a college education, and I'm not like neither of us are like kind of saying that you can't. But you can do a lot of great things without a college education. And specifically, and maybe a little selfish for Caterpillar and our dealers, but yeah, you could go into being a technician and make great money. And with not too much investment in terms of your education. So hopefully we see a tide that's turning there. And again, I don't want to take on the education system by any means, but
Yeah.
you're spot on that something does need to change. A lot of decisions that we've seen made, the skilled trades and skilled programs. I know that even when I was in high school, like ag, welding, and auto shop, and even woodworking were all under scrutiny because they cost too much. And then our education system, was originally established to meet the needs of the Industrial Revolution. So we needed people that could read. We needed people that could do math. We needed people that knew how to sit in an organized environment. I mean, if you look at the classroom model, that's exactly what they were training for. They come here 8 hours a day, do what we're going to have you do, or do what we're going to tell you to do, and here's how we're going to go about it. We're operating on a 150 or 170-year-old model for today's environment, which I don't think is realistic. There's strengths in the education system for sure. There are great things that we can use in there, but I think we need a refresh. We talk about other countries, like the U.S. doesn't rank necessarily the highest when it comes to the education system. And I think there's other countries that we should be looking at. Finland is one that always comes up as an example of like one of the top education systems in the world. Scandinavia and Europe in general, they have a completely different approach when it comes to their education system, in the sense of you have your grade school through junior high, and then your first 2 years of quote unquote high school are like general. And that's the time where you can figure out what you want to do and where you want to go. Some people decide that they want to keep going with education and go get a bachelor's, so they follow that. But if you decide that you want to go into skilled trades of any sort, there are numerous technical high schools that you follow from there. And I think that's maybe a page we should be taking from their book, is really pursuing more technical high schools so we could get people more engaged earlier in the conversation.
Yeah, that would be absolutely awesome. I know I would have taken advantage of something like that, and I kind of did. I mean, I kind of worked, I guess, my last year of high school there. I did the work study deal where I worked half day, and I worked down at John Deere, while I was still in high school. And I guess that was just a unique opportunity, that was presented to me just by working hard. And I was actually working for a farmer on the weekend, building a fence for him, and he asked me if I wanted a job, and I said sure, but I kind of thought I had one, working at the time for him. And he said, no, down at John Deere, I'll run that store down there. And so that opportunity presented itself kind of in a unique way at an early age. I was 16 years old, and I guess I just knew from a young age I liked working on it with my hands. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, taking my bicycle apart just to do it. Like I just liked doing things like that, helping my grandpa work on lawnmowers or whatever he needed help with things, working on things. And so I guess some people just realize earlier on that what they want to do, and some people need a little encouragement or direction. You need, of which way they need to go or which way they want to go with their life and their career path, and the CAT programs, Think Big and Think Bigger, really helped me a lot with that. They didn't just help me with the technical aspect of it, going through the Think Bigger program really helped polish, us all up, I think.
Yeah.
I could have probably used more than some, but they definitely did help in a lot of ways with that. And working for CAT Corporate did the same thing. And I think a lot of that plays a role in, how I conduct business with my customers, and how, I'm not just a greasy mechanic that doesn't talk to his customers or is kind of rough on the edges. I'm really make sure I keep my customers in the loop and try to act professional and courteous to them at all times. And I think you learn some of those things through those programs. It's more than, like going back to what you were saying about with the technician stuff and how the technology is evolving. The technology is evolving, but customers also expect more and more, and they want service, they want prompt service, they want quality service, and they want, someone who knows what they're doing, but that's going to also treat them with, important, make them feel like they are the most important thing to them. And I feel like, as we go on, it's just those programs have helped me with all that kind of stuff, and I don't think if I just would have started off just mechanicking on my own that I would have, and didn't go through those programs, that I'd be where I am today either. So,
Yeah. So one thing that I think hopefully is, well, I want to get your take on it. Hopefully it's coming through as a theme with some other aspects, but the big conception or thought that we have about the younger workforce or those entering the workforce is they want to do work that makes a difference. And, a lot of people want to help change the world in some micro fashion. And I think even, working as a technician, that's something you can do. And you can make a big impact within your local community, within your local economy. And I mean, can you think of any instances where you've run into that over the past 10 years of your career, or even before that as well, where you're able to, make that difference as well as, be a part of, making somebody's day significantly better?
Well, I mean, I feel like as a technician, it's one of the most rewarding things. To me, it's a very rewarding career. I mean, whether you have a customer who is, using a medium duty truck or a heavy duty truck, and he's pulling his, or he's got a big motorhome and he's running down the road with his family and breaks down, and you get them up and going off the side of the road when they're stuck, and they're on vacation, or it's a owner operator running up and down the road, and he's got to get home for a holiday and he's broke down, and you get him up and going so he can get back home to see his family. I mean, those scenarios happen all the time with us, because we do mobile service. We also, we've worked on everything from rail, we do work for Union Pacific Rail. So that keeps freight moving, keeps them working on the tracks. American Red Cross, there's been all kinds of things. And even through like this COVID deal, one of the things I was going to touch on earlier and I kind of forgot was, we never really, we slowed down a little bit, but we never laid anybody off. Every technician still worked full time, at least 40 hours a week. And through the whole thing, we've never slowed down. And through that, we've kept companies and individuals up and going that otherwise they would have, been down, their business would have been down or whatever. So to me, it's very rewarding to be able to fix those things for customers. That, or like if they've been to, one or two shops and they can't figure out what's going on with it and they've got a reoccurring problem. Those challenges to me are very rewarding too, to figure out, and then to know that customer knows you just figured out something that multiple people have tried to fix and couldn't figure it out and couldn't fix it, and then you have a customer too that's probably a long-term customer because they know your skill set based off of that. So, I can't say enough how rewarding I think the career is, but.
Yeah, and I've kind of found too there was times in my career where, back when I was a technician with Holt, California, there was, 10 to 12 hour days. There was one instance where we were having to do they were swapping an engine out of a scraper, and then we had to do some retrofits on it. But that was a 15-hour day. And those days in comparison, or flew by in comparison to some days where I'm sitting, behind a Excel sheet and trying to, do some data analysis. So it's, the rewarding factor, it's through the roof with the work that you do as a technician, for sure. I'm really blown away the fact that you didn't have to do any cutbacks or layoffs recently with everything going on. As a quote unquote small business, that's phenomenal that you didn't really have to make any of those unfortunate decisions.
Yeah, I was very happy about that. We cut out some of the overtime, we weren't working as much overtime as we wanted, but everybody still worked 40 hours a week and we didn't lay anybody off. And we've actually hired people through that. We had some challenges with hiring during that time, surprisingly. I didn't expect that. I thought it'd be a good time to hire. I thought there'd be plenty of people looking for work, but that wasn't really the case. But yeah, no, we've actually continued to grow through this period. So I'm thankful for that, and our customers and them providing, relying on us to provide our services for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and hopefully, like with any potential, whether it's a student that's looking at becoming a technician, or even a parent that has a student that's looking at becoming a technician, maybe that should give them some assurance as well in terms of the financial securities that come with the role. And I talked about this in other conversations where, as long as you're willing to work, and then, should there be unfortunate economic situations, as long as you're willing to work and are flexible in terms of your location and able to move around, I don't think there's going to be a shortage of work for you anywhere.
No. I think, especially like you said, you're willing to move around. I mean, I'm sure there's certain areas of the country where it may not be as busy. Texas has a really good economy right now. Mm-hmm. I feel like as long as there's plenty of other places with good economies, other states, but I feel like we're just in a market where even now, I was worried a little bit, with the COVID. The COVID kind of hit, with shutdowns and everything. But then we also had, we're right on the north edge of the Eagle Ford Shale, which is a big shale play in South Texas. And we have a lot of customers in the oil field. And so oil dropped down. I don't know if you saw that, but at one point, the futures were down negative, showing negative for I think a day or so, which hadn't happened in I don't know how long, ever, I don't think. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like that double thing, and I didn't know, as an owner, you talk about some of the stresses and things. You have all these employees employed, so you worry about things like that, and you keep an eye on stuff. But fortunately, even with all that, we still stayed busy. So. And it's already picking back up. It's getting busier again. We're back up working overtime in the shop and in the field again. So, I think it's a very secure, skill set. If you have that skill set, or if you decide to grow that skill set, I think that you have a very secure career as long as you're willing to work and to put in the hours, but I think that's with anything that you decide to do, whether you get a bachelor's and you go into management, you still have to put in hours. I'm sure you put in plenty of hours, and mm-hmm. You've made sacrifices just like anybody else, so.
Yeah, sometimes I miss overtime because we're not getting paid extra when we're staying over in management.
Yeah.
So, well, hey, I really want to be respectful of your time, and I know you've got plenty going on, so we'll probably start wrapping things up. But what I've been kind of asking people throughout these conversations is if, the target audience for this is, technicians, potential technicians, parents, and educators, like, what's your advice for those individuals, for somebody that's looking at this career field, or a parent or an educator of an individual that's looking in this career field, and, just to kind of give them some extra assurance, and, for that individual that's thinking about going into it, like, what's the first step to get moving forward?
I would say if they're on the fence, they're looking at it, but they're not sure, I would say to reach out to like a tech school instructor, or go to some of these companies. If someone was looking at that field, say in high school, and they came to talk to me, I would definitely carve out time to talk to that person and explain to them, the ins and outs, things to look at. I would invest in tooling. I think that's important, as a technician, to make sure you invest in your tooling. Mm-hmm. It just makes you more efficient. It makes you a better tech, to have the right tools for the job. I wouldn't be scared of getting into it at all. I mean, I would do it all over again. I wouldn't change anything about how I got into the field, or, how I went about it. I think that, like I said, it's very rewarding. And the work's going to be there. I mean, trucks are going to be on the road. You're going to have equipment to build things with, like that's not going away, anytime soon. So, I don't know of a more secure industry to be in, as long as you're willing to work and, sweat a little bit and maybe get a little dirty every once in a while. I think that, you can have a lot of fun in this industry. So, And like you said, there's a lot of opportunities in the technical side of it that are continuing to grow. I mean, these trucks and the equipment, there's more and more onboard diagnostics and computers, and that presents a whole nother opportunity if a tech wants to really just focus on that part of it. There's going to be a great need for technicians for a long time, I think.
Well, I can't think of any other way to finish that on such a strong note. So, Brandon, really thank you again for your time. Really appreciate it. And again, really happy to see how things have evolved and grown for you. This is, I think you and I are both light years ahead of where we were versus back in Pittsburgh, Kansas. So it's been been really cool to see that and hear your story as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for keeping me in mind and reaching out to me, and wish everybody the best moving forward. So thank you.
So that's going to bring today's session to a close. I do want to thank everybody for taking time to listen to this as well. If you want to be a part of this conversation or know somebody that should be a part of this conversation, please reach out to me. You can email me at REOME_GRIFFIN_E@cat.com. Thanks again for your time and looking forward to talking to you more.